All right, so we talked angles of triangles. We went over the fact that all angles add up to 180, and now we're going to get into the idea of congruent triangles. So let's remember that in a geometric figure, we can map that figure to another figure if they're congruent to each other. So congruent means same. So in two congruent polygons, all of the corresponding angles and all of the corresponding parts are congruent to each other. So we're going to practice identifying what parts match up. And then in caps and everything, just remember, order is important. So you have to pay attention to the markings or the numbers that are on the actual figures itself. So if we are listing angles here, I'm going to start with the triangle on the top. So I'm going to say, all right, well, I have angle A is congruent to something, angle B is congruent to something, and angle C. And now I look at the markings. Well, A has 2 on it, and then I go to the other triangle. Well, H also has 2, which means angle A is congruent to angle H. B has 1 on it, which matches with J. Fill it into our chart. C has 3, K has 3. Fill that into our chart. Now we do the same for sides. So I'm going to do the triangle on top first. I have AB. If I work my way around the figure, I have BC, and I have CA. Those are my 3 sides. So now I want to make sure that I'm maintaining consistency. So if I'm going from A to B needs to match. Well, A matches with H, and B matches with J. So it should be HJ. AB is congruent to HJ. BC should match with JK. And CA should match with KH. And that is your chart that goes over the angles that are corresponding and the sides that are corresponding, and they are all congruent to each other. So based on that, what you then do is you create a congruent statement. And the nice part about it is if you look at your angles chart, you can go in that order. Now there's not just one way to do it, but you can just say, okay, well, if I do ABC on the left, it needs to match with that on the right-hand side. So if I went straight down this row, these have to match, so I can just go HJK. Now, you could have gone up. You could have said CBA. Well, if you said CBA, then it would be KJH. It does not matter where you start. You just need to make sure that when you choose to order, that it is in the same order for both of them. All right, so let's apply some algebra as always. So it tells us the triangles are congruent. So if the triangles are congruent, what I'm going to do is mark them. So A and D are congruent. A and D. B and F. B and F, which means that C and E have to be congruent. There's my angles. Now for sides, A to B goes with D to F. A to B, D to F. B to C goes with F to E. So B to C goes with F to E, and that leaves the third sides congruent. So now I go back and I look and I say, okay, what do I have labeled here? So just if you can't read this one, this is an arrow pointing right into here. So I know that B and F are congruent. Well, if B and F are congruent, then I can say that 99 equals 8y minus 5, because I'm trying to solve for the variable. I'm going to add the 5 to the other side, and I get 104. And when I divide, I get 13. Now, for the other one, I see that these two match up to each other. So I'm going to say, all right, well, 38.4 equals 2y plus x. Well, keep in mind, you just found out what y was, so I'm going to sub that in. So I get 38.4 equals 26 plus x. Take the 26 away, and I get 12.4 for that. All right, figure on the right-hand side. So, again, they give us a triangle congruent statement. So let's mark R and T, S and V, which we have that. Put a right angle down here. And then we have our other set of angles that's congruent. Now let's do sides. First and second, R to S, matches with T to V. VS is congruent to itself right here in the middle. And then RV is congruent to TS. And let's see what matches up. So I'm finding X and I'm finding Y. Well, X right here goes with this angle right here. And I need to figure that out. But what I can use is my knowledge of triangles. So this is a triangle that has 2 out of 3 angles. So 90 plus 78 plus angle R is equal to 180. Angle R would then be equal to 12. But we're finding t, which is equal to x. So if this is equal to 12, then you know this is equal to 12, which means x is 12. So there's part 1. And then for y, if I use a different color here, we see that this matches up with this. So we can say that 2y minus 1 is equal to 24. 2y equals 25, which means y is equal to 12.5. All right, now on the back. Before we do one proof with this stuff, because this chapter especially is definitely proof stuff. So it says third angle theorem. So if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then the third set of angles has to be congruent to each other. So if we relate that now to this, sorry about that. Is it all the way at the top? Yes, it is. My bad. All right, so if we relate it to this triangle, so according to the markings we see, so if angle C is congruent to angle K,